And hello again, and here we are on a beautiful day, but a windy day, and that's why we're here in the back of the garage so you can hear me above the sound of the wind. So next to me here, got the old Z1000A1. Down here's the frame of the Mark II project, 460 engine, going to go in there. In front of me I've got the long-running Guzzi project, and over there is my rather beautiful looking Kawasaki Z1000A1 project. So the purpose of this video is to talk about a new project, or new projects in general. And I have been thinking about a new project for quite a while, as I always do. Got some tea here, by the way. And right now I need a new project like I need a hole in the head, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 incomplete projects, but that doesn't stop me from looking. So I've been thinking, well, I've got 3 Kawasaki's here. I'm kind of perhaps done enough Zeds for the time being. I'm not somebody who tends to concentrate on one particular brand or one particular make or even one particular model, which I know a lot of people do, but I'm not like that, as you may guess. I like a bit of change, and yeah, I'm always working on different things. So if I've done a Guzzi, I won't do another one. You know, I'll go and do something else. I might do a Laverda. Actually I wouldn't do, but anyway, or I might do another Ducati, a Honda, whatever. No, not Honda, a Suzuki perhaps. So, you know, I'm always looking for something a bit different. And so, having got 3 different Zeds of different ages and different sizes, I thought, well, I really don't want to do another Zed. Let's do something different. So I've been thinking about what to do, and I came up with a bike I really like. I always liked them, but never got around to buying one. And that bike was another Kawasaki, but a more modern Kawasaki, a Unitrack Kawasaki. It was in fact a Kawasaki GPZ 750 Turbo. And the problem with that particular project is that turbos are getting quite expensive now. They're now getting into the classic era. You know, folks are recognising them as being quite rare and very unusual and good looking bikes. I must say, I reckon it's probably the best looking bike that Kawasaki have come out with in the last 30 or 40 years. You know, after the classic Zeds anyway. So I was looking around, and I found one that needed a lot of work, because as usual I wouldn't restore it to factory. I'd modify it a bit, you know, fit better brakes, better tyres, rebuild the engine, so on. But I put a bid in on eBay recently, and I was shocked at how much it went for, because I've seen, you know, good quality bikes on the road, MOTs running well, for about £8,000. So this one was nothing like that. It needed a lot of work. So I put a bid in, and it went for double what I thought it would be worth. So I thought, oh, sod that, I'm not doing that. So I kept on thinking about things, what else could I buy? And the more I think about it, the more I think, you know something, I want to do another Kawasaki. I want to do another Kawasaki Zed, an old one, an air-cooled, big-bore Kawasaki Zed. And why not? You know, there's plenty of ideas I've got to work on these things and to improve them. And again, I'll do a resto mod, not a full-blown restoration down to the last nut and bolt. I've done that before, bored of doing them, and I'd much rather modify things, you know, and have a play around. The only problem with that idea is that it can be financial suicide. You must just put a bullet in your head, because if you buy a nice bike, a running bike, for maybe £6,000–7,000, you then might spend another £6,000 or £7,000 building into the bike you want, rebuild the engine, fit up-to-date running gear, wheels, brakes, fancy paintwork, whatever. And you end up with a bike worth less than the bike you had when you started, because modified bikes are always worth less than a standard, immaculate standard bike. Sadly, that's true. Not always true, but unless you're a sort of mechanical genius, that's what tends to happen. So I put a bid in for a Kawasaki Z1000A1 this week, and I was quite excited because I thought I might get it on eBay there. And I was somewhat shocked in the last few minutes of the auction. The price went up to about, I don't know, half again more than I thought it was worth. It's like, what the heck, you know, are you people mad? You know, £6,500 for a bike that probably needs rebuilding. Now, fair enough, Z1s and Z9s cost more and are worth more than Z1000s, but you know, this was not a particularly good example. So I thought, oh god, I'm not doing that, because you buy it and then I'll throw away half of it. I won't keep, you know, the shocks, suspension, the wheels, the brakes. The engine will be completely rebuilt. So you know what are you buying? You're buying a logbook and some bodywork and the basics of the engine, and that's not worth £6,500 to me anyway. So I kept on looking, and yesterday I won an auction for a Kawasaki. But it's not a complete bike, far from it. It is in fact just a frame. It doesn't have a logbook because it's from America, so it's got a Nova certificate for it, which means I can get it registered once it's built up and MOT. So what on earth am I going to do with a Z1000A1 frame? Well, in the corner here I've got the basics of a Z1000A1 engine. I've got the cases and a barrel. You know, they all need rebuilding. We've got no internals, no gearbox, once again, no crank, you know, no conrods, no head, nothing. But we can find all those parts online. eBay's fantastic for that sort of thing. Get everything rebuilt, good as new, in fact better than new, and won't be a problem. The next problem is bodywork, because, you know, yes, you get side panels and the rear ducktail, even a seat, no problem, from places like Z Power. Not cheap, but you can get them. But one problem I found is the Z1000 tanks. The ones I've seen are absolutely knackered. They've got big dents in, rusted out. You know, you think, who knows would buy that? And folks are wanting £200 or £300 for these absolutely, you know, knackered tanks. I'm talking huge big dents, rusted through, but still people want £200 or £300 for them. And then I found out that in Japan they make replicas, and very good replicas at that, because it's from Japan of course, and I think it may be supported by Kawasaki themselves, I'm not sure. But I can bring one into the country and Z Power will get me one for £400, which is a bloody bargain, so that's what I'll be doing. So the bodywork will be all new, and yeah, we're going to build something a bit like my Kawasaki Zed 1170 over there, which is based on a 650. Meanwhile, here we have the 1170 project, and I must say, given the budget I had, or the budget I gave myself for the project, I'm really happy with the way it's turned out. Love the paintwork, love the way we built the engine, love these old billet wheels that Jeff made for me years ago for my old drag bike. I wasn't sure if they would work quite well on this bike, but I think they do, so I'm really happy with that. But I must admit rather, that this bike does have compromises due to the budget I was working with. So it would be lovely to fit a £3,000 titanium nitro racing exhaust system from Japan, but couldn't justify £3 grand. So it's got a good old Delcovic system instead. That said, the Delcovic system is stainless steel. It's coated in a ceramic coating, and I think it looks pretty damn good. I did of course have to modify the collector to make it fit on the now wider back end, and while I did that we also tilted up the silencer to give a more sort of a jaunty angle to that. So overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And throughout the bike there are small things that I would change if I had an unlimited budget, let's put it that way. And yet the total cost of this bike was, well, will be when it's finished, about £9,500. And the big chunk of that was the engine, because that engine is pretty special. It's got a lot of nice kit in it. It's got a balance welded crank, forged pistons, brand new Mikuni RS34 carbs, and all that comes to quite a lot of money. But overall then, I am pretty happy with that. But as I said, you know, if you're trying to build your ultimate bike, there are still compromises in this particular bike here. And indeed, for that amount of money, you can go out right now and buy a very nice newish bike, something like a Z1000A1 RS Cafe, you know, last year's model maybe, low mileage, a few thousand miles on it, and off we go. But the problem with that is, I can't modify it. Oh, you can, but you can't really do that much for it. I like modifying things and taking them all apart and rebuilding it just the way that I like. So, the difference between the 1170 and this new project that I've not started yet will be the fact that it's not a Bitzer, it will be a genuine Z1000, not a 650 with a 1170 motor in it. And that makes quite a difference, in terms of value at least. It also will not be compromised by a budget. I do have a budget in mind, but it's a lot higher than these other projects, where I'm always sort of looking to see where I can save money, where I can sort of reuse things. I want to build it without any sort of compromise in terms of the parts I want to use. So if I want to build it with carbon fibre wheels, I will. If I want to build it with Dymags, I will. If I want to get something really cool, expensive from Japan, I will. So yeah, it will be built with a budget probably up to £20,000, which sounds absolutely stupid, but that will spread over 2 or 3 years probably. So you know, it doesn't feel quite so painful when you spread it out over that amount of time. And there are other financial incentives too. So for example, I can get it on classic insurance. Even though it's modified, it's still a lot cheaper to do insurance on those sort of bikes than it is on a modern super sports bike. Anyway, so that's the plan, and the frame is due to arrive in 2 days' time, at which point I'll have to find a home for it somewhere where it'll stay for quite a long time until some of these other bikes have been completed. We can move them around a little bit. However, what I can do in the meantime is start to list out all the parts I need and all the parts I want, because that list is going to get quite extensive and quite expensive. But we can buy them as we go on. So perhaps I might first of all buy some side panels and a brand new Kawasaki Z1 tank. Oh, another thing, I have quite a bee in my bonnet about making my bikes as light as possible. So I'll be quite interested to see how light we can make an old Z1000A1. Now, I have tried to do that on all my bikes, and in particular the 1170 over there. I want to weigh that when it's finished, because I suspect it'll be quite a lot lighter than a standard bike, either Z650 or a Z1000. And the reason for that, of course, is because there's a lot of parts of that bike that are a lot lighter than the parts fitted originally back in the 70s. So for example, the wheels, the billet wheels, now they're not as light as the very latest Supersport wheels you can get on modern bikes right now, but they are a lot lighter than the original mag wheels fitted back in the late 70s. And in fact, I did weigh the wheels here on the 650 some time ago, and I compared them to the wheels I'm using on the Mark II, which came off a 2011 Yamaha R6, and they felt so different. I mean, I did the rear wheel, I think, and the rear wheel on this bike was about 7 point something kilos. It's really quite narrow, you know, like a 2.15 wheel or something like that. Compare that with a 5.5 rim off an R6, which only weighed about 5 kilos. So there's a huge difference there. You can do the same thing for things like the suspension, the forks, the rear swing arm on that bike's off a ZRX 1200, and it must be, you know, a lot lighter, a lot stronger than the swing arm fitted originally. It also doesn't have the big heavy chrome mud guards, of course, and lots of small differences like that. So standard Z1000 of the era are about 240 kilos, about 550-ish pounds, and I don't know what that will be, but hopefully, you know, 50 or 60 or 70 pounds lighter than that. And I would like to get the new project bike even lighter than that. To do that, we might have to fit carbon fibre wheels, you know, updated, the very latest forks, super cool Japanese billet swing arms, whatever, because the budget will allow me to do that. I've got quite a big budget in mind, and rather than scrimping and scraping and buying second-hand parts off eBay and spending a lot of time getting them fettled, just go out and buy what I really want, which is what I've not been doing with these projects here. Yes, I think for the Mark II, that's close to what I want to do with the bike. You know, I'm very happy with the R6 wheels I'm getting for the bike, very happy with the forks and so on. But if you push me, I'd say, while the ZRX 12 front end is very nice, you know, 43mm, they're probably not as nice as fitting Öhlins or Nitron, because Nitron now make 43mm standard forks to go on a bike like mine. Just it costs you £3,000, so I'm not sure that's worth the money, but I'm sure we can find something better in time. And so this has been an introduction to my new project, my new Z1000A1 project, even though the frame's not here yet and nor is anything else. Except one part, and the one part that's here is this, which I've had for quite a while. In here is a very good copy of an original Z1 tailpiece. I've had this for ages because I bought it for the 1170 project, but because the frame's been widened it wouldn't fit, and I felt it was too nice to cut in half and try and widen. It's also made from ABS, which makes life a bit more complicated. So in the end I went out and bought a cheaper, simpler fiberglass version of this, and that's what we cut up and fitted the bike in the end. So this has been sitting around in a corner somewhere for quite a while, and perhaps you can call this kind of like the acorn from which a big Z1 oak tree will grow, but you never know, you never know. It's funny really, because, you know, I do sometimes start building projects based on the smallest, simplest thing, so maybe something like that would be the thing that jogged my memory to think, oh yeah, let's build a really cool Z1000 stroke Z900. Anyway, not much will happen with this project for quite a while, because obviously I've got other projects to do, I've got no space. But actually I don't know why I keep looking at this one down here and pointing at it, because it's not the Z1, this is the Z1000 Mark II. But yeah, when the frame arrives I might look at that, we'll do a quick video of the frame, see what stage it's in, and go through perhaps what mods we want to make to the frame, because obviously it will need reinforcing and strengthening, just like we have done with the 1170. And then I guess the fun begins. My retail therapy will begin when I start picking out parts all the way from Japan, or maybe from the UK, some carbon fibre wheels, God knows what else. Ohlins bits and pieces, Ohlins shocks, Ohlins forks, you know, brand new bodywork. You know, it's going to be quite a lot of box opening in the next month or two when I start to buy parts, and we'll then just put them in the corner and let those parts build up, and so that when I am in a position to start building the bike, I'm not spending months and months waiting for parts to arrive from Japan, waiting for things on back order. You know, you want to get the parts in, ready to go when you're good and ready. There we go. Come on. There we go. So, what can we see? Well, it's pretty damn rusty. But the rust isn't deep, it's just surface rust. It's got a few grommets on here. Well, of course they'll all be changed. As I already mentioned, it's a Kawasaki Z1000A1 frame from around 1978. Everything seems to be intact. Yeah, I'm missing a couple of parts for the tank mount there. Just check the threads and various parts. Yeah, I've even got the seat lock, or at least the seat lever anyway, because that's missing on my current bike. So yeah, it's okay. They're straight, back end straight. Overall pretty happy. Now it's not cheap. Back in the day a few years ago, you could buy one of these with a logbook for about £100, maybe 150. But those days are long gone, and the price of these frames is going through the roof, just as the price of the bikes themselves are going through the roof. So I've had to pay £500 for this frame. They wanted £550, but I managed to get them down to £500, including the delivery, which they wanted, what, £59 for. Although to be fair, a huge big Arctic lorry's just driven up and dropped this off for me, so I guess that would have been quite expensive to do. So overall, it's a pretty solid frame, a good basis for the new project. Now I know that some people will say I'm stupid because I shouldn't be starting a brand new project with this frame here when I've got so many other projects that are incomplete, and that's a fair criticism really. But anybody who's built a bike from the ground up will know there are times when things slow down and stop. You know, you're waiting for a head to be rebuilt, you're waiting to get the paintwork back, which can take months and months and months. You know, there's times when you can't do anything. So in my case here, for example, the Z650 here, I've done pretty much all I can do with running chassis at the moment. Can't do much more. So I've got to wait probably until the winter for the engine to be rebuilt, whichever engine we end up using in the bike, and then things will then speed up again when the engine's rebuilt in the bike. I can then continue to do the electrics, the controls, whatever, and get the bike finished. So probably for the next, what, 4 or 5 months, this bike will sit here untouched. Ditto for my Mark II project down here. The Guzzi, which is behind the camera right now, has always been my very long-term project. I just work on it when I feel like it, and right now I don't feel like it, so I don't work on it, and that's just the way things are. So my big push at the moment is the 1170 project, and I'm doing work on that now. I'm waiting for what we got about in 2 weeks' time. I'll go and pick up some parts from Camcoat where they've been ceramically anodised, and they can go back in the bike. Until then I can't really do much else. Well, I can, but I'm not going to. And so there are times when, even though I've got 4 incomplete projects, there's not much to do, or much I want to do. Let's put it that way. And so when it comes to the brand new project, it gives me something to do, something to think about, something to plan for. So for example, I've been hitting eBay at the moment, looking at prices and things, looking at new prices, second-hand prices. When it comes to the running chassis, I'm currently going through a huge array of options for things like forks, shocks, swing arm, wheels, you know, where can I get the bodywork from, all kinds of stuff. And you know, that's quite interesting for me. I find that quite enjoyable. As my consultant said, I should start doing things you enjoy and doing less things that I don't enjoy, so that's what I'm doing. So, although it's very tempting at the moment to get this frame blasted and powder coated so it looks like this one here, I'm not going to. We're going to do a full ground up dry build before I even think about getting the frame and bodywork painted. So yeah, that should be quite interesting. But as I say, first of all, that frame's going to go at some point soon to Jeff's workshop where he's got a frame jig. Get it on the frame jig, measure everything, make sure the headstock's straight, you know, the frame's straight, everything's fine. And while it's there, he may as well lock it down and we'll do some pretty simple additions to the frame to strengthen the headstock and around the swing arm area, because they're the two weak points of the frame. Anyway, so that's it. So thanks for listening to me rambling on about my new exciting project, and yeah, we'll see how it turns out. So thanks for watching and cheers.